Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone who attended today and join us on this very interesting panel. So maybe we can just go up all on the stage. Please, girls, Barbara, Martha, and Thomas, join me on the stage. And I would like to encourage everyone to think about some questions that you want to ask us, because that is a really good opportunity to ask my colleagues about any problems or issues or questions that you might have. That's why we are all here for. And go around this very interesting subject, which is the fintech sector in the Central European and Eastern European area. There are a lot of countries involved. There are a lot of things which are included in this fintech sector. So there could be a lot of questions maybe in your mind regarding the iGaming, regarding the regulation, regarding the banking. Obviously, Thomas is here from an EMI, so he's happy to reply on any of those questions. And obviously me. I've got a payment consulting company, so if you have any questions about banking or moving funds or any other high-risk related banking questions, obviously I'm here to assist you on that. So let me introduce you to the panelists. Maybe, guys, everybody can just grab a microphone and introduce yourself in 2 minutes.
Hi, hello everyone. So my name is Thomas, as Victoria just mentioned here, and I will be representing a Connect Pay. And sort of business side of things in banking, finance, embedded finance, and etc. So, as Victoria said, all the questions are welcome at the end, or whenever you guys are ready. And yeah, I represent the business side of things in this panel. And as for Connect Pay, we are a financial platform. We do embedded finance. At the same time, we offer like bank accounts, open banking, card processing. So the services are extensive. But the main focus at the moment is sort of embedded finance and banking as a service, and how can this be sort of adapted to crypto projects, iGaming, and the whole high-risk vertical. And it's easier for the regulator to go this way when the platform of high-risk platform wants to participate and introduce like financial functionalities to their platform or marketplace. So we see it as an exciting and sort of good project to be participating and to be providing to all the marketplaces and platforms. So, so this is the topic that I'll try to sort of familiarize you all with, and yeah, all the questions are welcome as mentioned. So yeah, I'll pass it back to my colleague on the next.
Thank you. My name is Marta Stanisławska. I'm a counsel at Bert & Bert Warsaw Law Firm. As a lawyer, I have more than 10 years of professional experience in advising to financial sector companies. My main field of specialization are payment services, AML law, and outsourcing regulations. Me and my team, we are advising to financial sector companies in all projects when financial services meet technology. So we are involved in projects of when financial sector companies are implementing IT solutions, for example, for video verification or different payment solutions, etc. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Barbara, and I'm also from Bert & Bert. Our law firm specializes on clients who are changed by the digital world or who are leading this change. So for me as a lawyer from traditional banking and finance area, the fintech is very much the natural area of my focus. We advise clients from many sectors who are interested in either payment services, who need to deal with MLL obligations, and who are just looking forward for the future, what can it bring to them, and how their technology can improve it for them.
Thank you so much. So let's start. Actually, I had a friend who told me that, you know, the funny part of the fintech is that that's the hardest part of the tech, because it's not only just tech that you need to innovate, but there's also a regulator on top of your neck as well. So if you want to have a challenging and hard career where no one knows anything and you're afraid of breaking the laws on a minute basis, start a career in fintech. So guys, if you can share me a couple of thoughts about how do you see the sector right now in the area, what are the biggest challenges that you're facing, and just to give us an overview about how do you feel about this sector in this area when it comes to your expertise and obviously your clients. Maybe Thomas, you can start.
Yeah. So, yeah, the guessing game that you just described in terms of regulation is not my expertise, but you know, when you're participating in the company and trying to achieve things and bring some innovations to the company in terms of business and technology and etc. Regulation is always a question, and you know, you plan something, you think that it's, you know, sounds like an amazing idea, and then you come, you know, to the CFO, or you know, I was involved with the, you know, speaking with the regulator directly, and then, you know, the rejections happen over there. So, so everything has to be aligned with the regulation. You know, Lithuania, this is where the Connect Pay is based. I feel like we have a good relationship. You know, it's a long-term relationship. We have associations that focus and communicate with the Bank of Lithuania. So, so we don't have any complaints. You know, especially when you hear the, you know, the negative stories of other markets. I think we got really lucky in terms of the regulator that we have to work with. But yeah, you know, the challenges are solved with time, and as long as the communication is there, as you know, as long as everyone's prepared and, you know, you ask the right questions and, you know, work hard, I think everything is, you know, everything is doable. So yeah, in terms of, you know, the challenges that we face at the moment is just alignment in terms of the embedded finance, but we feel like we have everything in place at the moment, and it's just the term, you know, in terms of achieving and connecting with the right partners to provide the highest quality services. But yeah, I suppose, you know, the guys here from legal would be able to comment a bit more on that.
Yeah, exactly, because Lithuania, we all know that you are lucky with the regulator, because all the EMIs have a very nice position there for years. But what is the situation right now in Poland, and what's the situation here in Prague, obviously? Martin, maybe.
Polish fintech market is I think is focused more on the payment solutions. According to the How to Do Fintech report, which was released last week, more than 30% of Polish fintechs are involved in payment services. So I think the payment services is the main field of specialization of Polish fintechs. In particular, they are providing payment solutions to the e-commerce sector. They are also providing lending services to the end customers. And I think that this is the most important part of the fintech sector in Poland, that they are very well connected with the e-commerce sector. They are providing a lot of services to them, and as I said, payment solutions, for example, remote onboarding of the customers, including video verification solutions, and of course lending services. BNPL services, so buy now, pay later services, which are very popular in all European countries, are also the main or one of the most important services provided right now to the end customers by fintech companies through e-commerce. So it's and right now, for example, BNPL services. So, to BNPL services, as you probably all of you know, there are service which allow customers to buy products without having funds on their accounts, and they are returning money after 30 days, or after 30 days they can return the product to the e-commerce provider. And this service is very popular, and many Polish fintechs are providing this service, which helps. And this service is a perfect example of a product which helps customers end customers to buy products, and helps e-commerce sector grow. And I think this is a future of e-commerce sector to be in a very close cooperation with fintech companies, and to provide to the end customers different type of services which are user-friendly, which helps customers to buy faster, to buy in more secure environment, and
crisis is always pushing innovation, right?
Yes,
so obviously that's negative and positive as well. What's the situation in Czech Republic? Is it the same, or?
Definitely payments in fintech sector are still very strong, and they're continuing to be, as it is kind of natural area. As you mentioned, going to fintech business, like why? It's so heavily regulated, and so many traditional established other companies which you need to challenge. On the other hand, I think it's the ideal area for the challenge, which needs to be disrupted, and where you have really lots of possibilities, which you know either from your business or from your personal situations, you know, where you just were not getting the service which you wanted or which you needed. So I think it's, on the other hand, it's really interesting sector to focus on. And as regards fintech in Czech Republic, over the last years, we are definitely seeing increase in a number of fintechs, increase in types of their offerings, not just the payments, but for example, few quite successful companies from InsurTech, also investments of various forms. Well, obviously, companies focusing on managing personal finances and crowdfunding. So we are seeing the companies are, or the market in general, is maturing. It's more of the entities, and it's more of the offerings. Even the well-established fintech companies on the Czech market are now more slowly moving to the trend that they are not offering just one specific service, but they are already opening or widening the range of their services, which is quite interesting to see.
That's right, because diversification is always the key if you want to stay afloat and be ahead of the competition. I know, because we are working together with Connect Pay, that you guys are actually made an absolute success story. You started up as a small EMI a couple of years ago, and now you're offering new services as well on the market. Can you tell us a bit more about that how you diversify your products and obviously services, what made you reaching there where you are, and obviously give us a bit of hints and tips how to do the same success story within Lithuania.
Right. Thank you for the lovely description and the success story, but I think we are still far from the the success that we're trying to achieve here in Connect Pay. But yeah, we started as as a small fintech, focusing on iGaming mainly, and this is still the core business for us. I don't think we will forget iGaming, because we consider ourselves an expert in this field. But with time, there are different issues, and you have to adapt to them. So, diversifying the risk. So you have to introduce some low-risk companies in order to sort of, be on the good terms with the regulator. And then, there's always trends and the sort of the innovation that you're trying to create the unique product that the market might need at the moment, right? And as previously mentioned, embedded finance is sort of the focus and what we think is the future in the market. Especially, I think it's the vision that has not yet been touched upon in the iGaming. But we believe that this can be a new thing, especially for the big established companies who has just so many branches and need to have everything in one place. So we sort of are operating as a platform, as a marketplace, rather than single entities in each country. So yeah, we're pushing this narrative to the iGaming, and hopefully we'll see some good results. But yeah, the road to where we are at the moment has been bumpy and a lot of challenges and etc. But I think it's just having a good team, focusing on the basis, getting a good relationship with the regulator, ML, KFC, and etc. That consists of the majority of the employees in the company, and our clients might not like it, but I suppose this is the key for the sustainable business. And if you're in the market for a long term, and this is the goal of yours, I suppose the basics should always be there and be solid. Otherwise, it's easy to fail. But yeah, for the future, it's just looking for the new ways of sort of helping the industry out. Introducing new solutions. Crypto, looks always interesting and exciting. And I suppose iGaming and crypto is just so closely related that it's inevitable to operate in the market without having some crypto or the blockchain technology in the financial company. So yeah, this is a short introduction. I'm excited to hear what guys have to say.
And ladies, maybe you can help me out, because Thomas mentioned regulation like 2 or 3 times. What are the similarities and what are the differences in different countries? How do you see that what are the opportunities to work with the surrounding countries? What are the differences when it comes to your own regulation, when it comes to the fintech sector?
Okay. I will start. I catch up the looks. I think it's interesting, as Thomas mentioned, the good relationship with the regulator, which is, I think, from every regulator is always welcomed. On the other hand, not every regulator open its doors enough for the companies who want to, especially when you are starting your business, when you have some bright idea and you are just wondering, okay, which license, where to go, with who to speak. It's not always easy to navigate your road in all these regulations and obligations. And from the first, I think that the UK regulator set up a beautiful example for fintechs, with the sandbox, and it was just applaud, I think, across many countries, and especially in the business. Okay, so we can practice our business in a protected environment, and then just after the discussion with the regulator, see which license to apply to, or actually even whether we need a license, which is always very important question. In Czech Republic, we saw a development in regulator. I remember that in 2016 or some year like that, we had a conference in Bird and Bird, and we invited our colleagues from London, and they spoke about how the FCA are just welcoming and open to discussion and helping actually. And one colleague mentioned on how many times on the FCA website the word fintech can be found. Well, at that time, on the Czech National Bank, you could be sure that you couldn't find a word fintech on their website, nowhere close. The time fortunately changed. We haven't. The regulator hadn't moved so far that we would have a specific Czech sandbox, but we have at least a contact point, which is good step and a good way to go. So I think this is also interesting to see, like, different countries are really just open for the discussion and how much they want to help the fintechs. The situation in Czech Republic can be nicely shown in another example, which is, I think that even our audience or colleagues from more like a gaming area noted the PSD implementation, or the PSD2. And for now in Czech Republic, we have only 3 companies who are licensed in order to provide the new services under the PSD2. Other entities are providing the services on a cross-border level, meaning they gained their licenses in some other EU country, and they are using the passporting to provide it in here. So yeah, free companies, it's not much. There's a progress, but slow.
Yeah, and you said that countries can even learn from each other. So if one innovates, then the other ones follow as well. But you, Marta, mentioned about Poland as well, that you're really heavy in payments, and then the fintech sector is booming.
And Barbara touched a very important issue, meaning the relationship with the regulator. The Polish regulator for many years was known as a very strict regulator, which is not very open for discussion of the market, but this situation changed. And right now, a Polish financial services regulator, their intention is to create Poland as a country which is open for innovative solutions and is very strong in fintech. And there is an initiative called Future Finance Poland, which would help to create Poland as such open country, and with regard to fintech. And for example, KNF, the Polish Financial Supervision Authority, opened a sandbox where fintechs can discuss with the regulator which type of regulatory requirements they need to apply, whether their solution is ready to be implemented in Poland, and also the KNF right now is really open for discussion. You can arrange the meeting with them and describe every solution you would like to implement, or any business project you would like to start in Poland. So they are changing. They are definitely much more open, and the licensing procedures are much more fastened. For example, according to the report published a few weeks ago by European Banking Authority, the licensing procedure for the payment services providers was much more longer in Poland than in other countries. But I hope that it is history, and right now it will be much more better. As in Poland, we have a lot of innovative companies who would like to be leading in all Europe, so they need to have a license in quite fast way. Of course, it does not mean that that the regulator will be not focused on regulatory requirements. Of course, all of these companies need to be comply with the regulations, but the idea is that all these procedures will be much faster and more, let's say, user friendly.
Yes, because we see that even, as we mentioned earlier, that countries are learning from each other, but also competing to bring your fintech company here, bring your tax money here. And obviously, if we give the good surrounding opportunities and the regulatory framework, why would I go to Poland where the timeline is longer than I can go to Lithuania?
Another thing I just wanted to mention, we spoke with colleagues here just after, before jumping to the stage, and one thing that we mentioned is like the whole CEE region, right? It's actually, there's so many countries in such a small area, and every single country is so different, right? So the difference can be a good and a bad thing, right? But in this specific fintech ecosystem, it's so good because then you know what the company is focusing on, and then you can align whatever it is that the country is good at, right? Whether it's IT talent, whether it's the regulatory bodies, and etc. So I think we're in a good place where you can, in the region itself, you can choose what the company needs, and then you can choose the country to open the business in, according to your requirements for the company. So yeah, I think it's an exciting thing, the difference, but obviously it can hurt in some of the scenarios at the same time.
Yes, and if you think about it, that I can go get a license anywhere in Europe and then passport it out, then it's going to be a very good motivation for other countries as well to do better, cheaper, quicker, in a more warming environment. And it's not necessarily just from the regulator, but from a banking perspective as well. So if your central bank is playing ball, then most probably more fintech companies will go there and get the local license.
Yeah, exactly. And if the license, acquiring the license is not sort of the path that you're willing to take at the moment, right? You can, there's now alternative solutions that you can, join someone else's license as a distributor, right? And then passport to those countries they're planning to operate in, right? So this is the banking as a service that's now popping up, and so it's much cheaper, and in terms of convenience, right? It's so beneficial for the companies that want to have a good relationship, but at the same time they want to operate in certain markets and etc. So yeah, I think this is going to be a new popular trend, and it's good that these new innovations by the certain regulators are now being brought up. So.
Exactly, and more companies are integrating the payment function within the fintech functions within. So even though that I have a company which has nothing to do with holding funds, through these regulators who are more welcoming, and it's easier to actually get the license locally, I'm more motivated to keep my money in my own pocket than white label someone or give the funding to some other players on the market, maybe even to my competition. Ladies, what do you think? What is the future? So we see that, yes, there are a lot of opportunities. The regulator is starting to be a bit more welcoming towards the new fintech companies. But as the fintech sector and as the area, what do you think? What is the future? We will just see different regulations in different countries, and then European Union try to patch it together as it happened with many cases before, or we come up as a unified area which is welcoming the sector. We've got the talent, obviously. Central and Eastern Europe for the development workforce. We've got the regulatory framework, and finally we can work together as a team. What are your thoughts about it in the future?
I think that in terms of regulations, the future is unification of law in all European countries. Mm-hmm. Most of the fintech companies in Europe are providing their services on a cross-border basis. So they are not in only one country. They are ready and would like to provide their services in also different EU countries. And to make such business model easier, regulations need to be unified. And it means in practice that more and more regulations will be implemented on the EU level as regulations, not based on the directives. As directives, introducing new regulations in directive means that such directives need to be implemented in all EU countries, which make the final regulations slightly different in different countries. So this is the first thing, unification of legal legal regulations, and I have something other to say in mind, but when
Maybe Barbara can join.
talk about unification.
In the meantime,
okay.
I will jump in. The unification of the regulation would be dream, I think. But on the other hand, I also am afraid whether it is not just a dream, whether it is actually reachable and doable, because, well, we are not like United States. We are still lots of countries in Europe with many differences, and even when there are successful regulations which are like really unifying the law, still we have the local regulators who can come up with very creative interpretation of this unified law, which is then just jumping out of a box and saying, hey, come on guys, no, no, let's stick to the interpretation used in other countries. Let's just not create our own specific way on any cost, which is usually the case, and it is usually the cost of the business. So this is definitely a topic, and well, I hope it will not be the hill on which we all die on. But yeah, hopefully, I think that there are many good initiatives, especially like bringing the regulators together to discuss, to share the situations, because for some it may be their 10th case, so they know the business already, which is also a thing which not just to shame the regulator, but to see also they're not a very easy position. They just don't sometimes have enough staff who is qualified in the more advanced technologies, and they just need some time to get themselves familiar with the business. And definitely the bigger cooperation among the regulators can ease this process and bring the regulator from the smaller markets, which definitely the Czech Republic is, and the companies are seeing obviously a huge potential in addressing other countries, but then they are again facing the difficulties with either differences in the regulation. Even when you can passport, you should always double check whether there are not some specific issues which you should focus on, or just the simple interpretation of the law. On the other hand, I really think that the future is either from the regulatory side in the cooperation, or even from the business side in the cooperation, meaning the embedded financial services, like why a customer should go to one company because he needs this service, then apply the benefit from the service to the other company, etc. I think that combining and offering the various services on the same place is interesting opportunity for many companies, and it can really create many beneficials for lots of customers.
That's right.
Yeah, right now I remember what I wanted to say previously. The next issue, which is, in my opinion, the future of the fintech sector, are sharing of data between different financial services institutions. This idea will be implemented by the Open Finance Regulation, which is on the desks of the European Union bodies right now, and this regulation will apply a regulatory environment for sharing data between, for example, insurance companies and banking and banks and fintech sector companies, and this regulation will allow fintech companies to to analyze the enormous amount of data on customers and provide different services based on such data. For example, analyzing credit risk and credit scoring, analyzing or confirming the client's identity, or analyzing the general financial standing of the client. So I think that the sharing data is the future, and PSD2 introduced legal grounds for sharing data on payment accounts and payment transactions, and Open Finance will introduce legal grounds for sharing also another financial data, and I think it may completely change the market and change the way how consumers are using financial services. Maybe there will be, like in Asia, there will be and we will have so-called super apps, so the one app with different solutions, and when the way of using one functionality will impact on product offering in a different sector. For example, the way how I'm using my banking app will impact on insurance offering or the list of hotels I will be provided with, etc.
Yes. And of course, it brings a lot of questions as well, because if I have an open banking on my phone and I'm giving KYC to my iGaming operator and they see my spending habits and they see how much I'm spending on other entertainment forms, maybe it rings some bells for cross-selling or any other data sharing ways which might not be beneficial for the end client. But obviously, as you said, yes, open banking is definitely the future. Data sharing is a must, because now we are living in a borderless society. It doesn't matter if I live in Prague, but I travel to, I don't know, Bucharest tomorrow, and then next day I'm in Thailand. Thomas, can you share us some ideas about how Connect Pay is tackling in this future problem? I understand that you mentioned that you are innovating with your products and obviously working together with the regulator. But in terms of data sharing and how it will affect your own clients, can you share us a bit more information about your KYC procedures or anything that you see which is worth mentioning when it comes to the future?
Yeah, so the surface that I can share in regards of data sharing, which is completely not my expertise, so I'll try not to pretend that it is. But yeah, so it all comes from the regulator, and there are requirements that we have to have the certain processes in terms of data sharing and etc. And without applying these processes, it's just once again the base is not there, and it just creates a lot of problems. But yeah, I definitely see a risk in what you just mentioned, that your expenses in terms of let's say a high risk industry could then correlate your, let's say, an account opening in a traditional bank, and because of your higher risk spendings, the account might not be opened in a certain country, or etc. So this is definitely an interesting topic, and I think the guys here will be able to comment and sort of explain the potential risks of the data sharing, and what could be the sort of damage to the consumer.
Well, I think that the main risk for the consumer will be that for example, making one mistake with regard to or experience a bad behavior with regard to one service provider will impact also another services. Yeah. So I think that this is the main risk. Of course, the others are data security. When we have only one provider which collects data. Data are in one IT system, and this one provider ensures that these data are secure. But when data are shared between different service providers, that the risk of this data being disclosed are much higher. But example of the PSD2 and open APIs built for the purpose of PSD2 shows that the IT specialists are able to prepare the IT solutions which provide security of data. So disclosing a data is a risk, but this not make sharing data impossible. I think it's just a challenge for IT specialists. But as we said, in Central Europe we have a great IT specialists. So I think it's there will be no problem for them to build IT environment which will provide security of data.
Yes, and you mentioned the centralization, and obviously the opposite of that is the decentralization. Obviously, we can also mention a couple of words about the blockchain and how the regulation is going to end up in the same way as the fiat regulation. As we say, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it has to be regulated as a duck, right? So it's the same way for the fiat and the crypto. But before we open a new chapter, I just want to encourage the audience to shoot us some questions, please. And
It's better this way.
Thank you. I have a question about the PSD2, right? I mean, it was introduced in 2015, and from what I understand, the banks are still not sharing the data. And apparently it's because it's the way they cannot share the data because there is, like, as you said, not centralized place. Isn't there going to be some platform built for it where you can find the data, share the data, and it's going to be secured? Because from what I understood, is a lack of platform. That's why it's not working. I mean, from 2015 to 23, it's quite a leap. And I always, when I hear about this, it's like, oh, we're missing some good platform. So is this being built? Is this how it's going to be handled?
Well, right now, we have different APIs, so the different IT solutions to share data between account services, payment service providers, and so-called TPPs. And for example, in Poland, we have Polish API, so the API invented in Poland by Polish financial sector. In many Western European countries, we have APIs built based on the Berlin Group standard, and we have also the UK standard, the open banking standard. But so right now, as you said, there are different API standards in different countries, and of course there are some international banking groups which have their own API standards. As far as I remember, Citigroup has his own their own API, but there are rumors that there is an idea that European Union, probably the European Banking Authority, will start working on one PSD2 API for all European country jurisdictions. But so that will be great. That for all financial sector companies will have one API, so one standard in all countries. And for fintech sector, it will be much more easier to implement only one standard and to connect only to one standard. And I think that there is a future that, but it will take maybe a few years, maybe 10 years to prepare something like this. I was working on preparing a Polish API standard in Poland, and it took us 3 years to prepare it, and it was only for one country and for 20 banks to prepare something like this. So with standards for 27 countries and for hundreds of banks and hundreds or thousands of fintech sector companies, it will be much more difficult. I think everything is possible, so I hope that preparing or implementing such standards, such pan-European standards is also possible, but as I said, it's definitely a matter of a few years to prepare something like this.
Yeah, but having it all European is the idea.
Yeah, there is an idea, yeah.
Any other questions? No questions? I can see a gentleman is shaking his hand at the front who doesn't really believe. Why do you think it's not possible?
I am optimist, so.
All optimists, for sure.
We all.
The problem is in interoperability. It's not making such a unique standard or unique platform. The future is in APIs, and actually the future fintech and all DeFis and everything that we have should work through the APIs, and each regulatory in each country, no matter if it is just in the European Union, no matter which part of the world it belongs, should follow some recommendations and deliver their APIs, which will be interoperable with others.
Any thoughts on that?
That will be great. That will be great, and I hope that this will be our future, as it will make a life of fintech sector companies much easier.
That's right. Any other comments?
Well, in Czech Republic, it's just not that in every country you have different standards, but sometimes you have in one country you even have standardized recommendation, but every bank implements it still slightly differently, which is the situation in Czech Republic. We have standardized recommendation, but it's not followed by everyone. Well, on the other hand, it opened an interesting opportunity for one specific fintech, which is built on the idea that they are just for everything that it's challenging to create 4, 6, 7 specific IPs just to connect to the banks operating on the Czech market. Well, and this fintech, they did this and they are offering this service. So at the end, they are doing what should have been done based on the idea behind the regulation. So yeah, the business helped itself. Obviously, one part of the business is more happy about it than the other. But yeah, not perfect regulation sometimes even creates interesting opportunities. But yeah, the idea that the IPs would be unified would be beautiful. But even you know, during the discussions about the PSD2, this was heavily discussed, and the strong opinion from the banks was heard very much. So no, they didn't want to unify it across all countries and every bank to have it same as the other bank. And so no.
It is, actually. Right, we are running short on time, so I would like to ask my colleagues to give us one good piece of advice, what we can take home and think about it and integrate it in our everyday life and in our work. So if you can just share one word of wisdom, what would it be? What worked for you, what to avoid, what to pay attention in terms of the future or in any kind of technology within a region or out, what would be your good word of advice?
Yeah, I'll just follow up on the what my colleagues here discussed. The unification of the whole region, Europe and beyond. So yeah, I just wish it to be more unified. See each other not as a competition, but as a sort of opportunity to become better. And yeah, let's have a good relationship with the regulators, and hopefully that will accelerate all the fintechs and the relationship between that, because in fight it's hard to get something when the both sides are fighting. So yeah, regulation in general seems like the base that the first step should be taken from. So yeah, good luck to all the fintechs, and
Good luck for us.
Yeah.
Ladies?
I think that fintech sector is very innovative, and in recent years, financial regulations were rather pain for them, and I hope that in future the regulations will create opportunities for the market, so they will be not only a pain for all of you, but will create opportunities or business opportunities. And right now the way how for example, European Union bodies are preparing law means that there is that there are too many regulations, and I hope that the tendency in the future will be completely different. So the regulation will not stop the fintechs from making a business which is secure, user-friendly, and user-friendly for consumers.
Thank you. And Barbara?
Okay, so if it should be like the advice for the end of our panel, I just have to say it, like, get yourself a good lawyer. And
couldn't agree more.
Me and my colleagues during the conference are here for you. So twobirds.com, you can always contact us.
Exactly, you can contact the two birds so for any kind of advice. And thank you very much for all the important insights and all your experience that you shared with us. You can always find us for further advice around the coffee machine, or even just hit us up. I'm sure that everybody is very helpful to help you out with other further questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you, Zoltan.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.